Maria and Craig, you guys are like legends in this space. So I am so excited to have you on. I can't believe we haven't yet. And really dive into the ketogenic diet. This is your jam. This is your area. You've been doing it. You've been talking about it. You've been living it for I don't know how long. I'm going to ask you that actually, how long you've been doing this and how you got started into kind of diving in and implementing the ketogenic diet in your life. But it's a topic that we need to really lay out because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions and fear around a diet, around a way of eating that can
Yeah.
significantly improve your life. So thank you so much for jumping on to have this conversation.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
It has been 28 years this following month. It will be 28 years. And so when I was 16, I wasn't feeling well. I was twice my size. I went to my family doctor, and she said it was nothing I was doing wrong. She never once asked me about my diet. But she
Just the
said
cards you're dealt.
it was the cards I was dealt. My grandpa
Hmm.
had type 2 diabetes, so I had PCOS. She
Yep.
told me I had that. And I
Mhm.
probably couldn't have my own children. She told me that I had, I know I had acid reflux, so I was given a prescription for that. I was given a prescription for an antidepressant, and I was given a prescription for IBS. And I looked at these things in my hand, and I was like, I don't want to take these. And there wasn't the internet back then, but it's very clearly laid out that for PCOS, it's excess caffeine, sugar, and carbohydrates.
Right.
And that very same week, I took my beautiful golden retriever to the vet. She was losing patches of her hair. And the first question the vet asked me was, what are you feeding her? And it was like,
Doctor never asked that.
oh, yeah. But now
Yeah.
when a doctor asks me, instead of saying keto, I'll say, I eat nothing from a package, all homemade food,
Meat,
like,
meat,
Yeah.
vegetables, and avoid sugar.
yeah,
That's
no
There you
sugar,
basically.
go.
that type of stuff. But I worked at a coffee shop where I made the scones and the muffins and the cinnamon rolls before I went to high school. I'd go to school and I'd come back after school and I'd clean up and stuff. We close about 5 p.m., but whatever didn't sell, I got to go home with. So you remember Seinfeld eating the muffin tops? Like I'm eating all the muffin tops, and I would make extra cinnamon rolls, making sure that I would have some on Fridays.
Yep.
But that's what I had for dinner. And I mean, it's really, I had to change my life, but I didn't want to eat chicken breast and broccoli. So I just recreated cinnamon rolls into these, high protein, low carb, sugar free things. And
Just adapt them. And
yeah,
she's such a whiz in the kitchen of figuring out what
Oh,
ingredients to substitute and make it taste the same, get all your same comfort foods, just a couple different ingredients to make it healthier.
no, Maria, you're an amazing whiz in
thank
the
you.
kitchen. Like I can't tell you if all y'all aren't following her on Instagram, I can't tell you how many amazing recipes I've made just by following you
Oh,
and
thank
seeing
you.
what you made. Like, ooh, that looks interesting. Let's do this. Okay.
Nice.
Like that Subway sandwich, right? I mean, it looks just like Subway, but it's made with bread from egg whites, and it's just weird.
Yeah.
It just works though.
Yeah. Well, what you do is you show, and obviously we're going to get way deeper in the weeds, but you show your followers that it's possible to still have and enjoy the foods that you love. Like, I mean, you worked in a bakery, you love baked goods. I love sweets. I love and the thought of giving it up and like you said, like, oh, I'm just gonna eat chicken and a burger and some vegetables. Like, no, that's a boring life. I want to enjoy my food, but I don't have to have the
Yeah.
consequences to the processed and high sugar, high carbohydrate foods when you tweak them like you have.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
you name it. I have a recipe for a Pop-Tart. And it tastes better than that cardboard crap. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah, all day long, all day long. So you got into
totally.
basically changing your diet, implementing this low carbohydrate lifestyle because of what was going on with you with your PCOS and insulin resistance. And then did it basically click and stay? Did you have struggles? What did that look like for you?
I didn't lose weight right away, but I swear my mental clarity, my happiness, like I felt like a different person within that first week. I just felt happier. My energy was so much better. I didn't have acid reflux or IBS. It just went away. So all the drugs that were given to me just went away just by changing my diet. I know I ate way too much like cheese and like high fat stuff at the time, but it kept me away from the sugar and stuff. And that's why when working with people, realizing like what can I get them past that sugar craving and stuff, but focusing on like my pure protein days really helped me to lose the weight. And it took time because I love food, right?
Yeah.
So it took me, a decade to lose my weight, which I don't care. I ate really good food the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of gets to kind of the part about uh some people come into keto and they're like, oh, I gained weight, or there's a lot of different ways, and keto's kind of gotten this big label that we've always tried to focus on the science and what biochemistry tells us about how our body works, but also following what works. And that's one of the things that we learned early on was you know the really high fat keto, which is what a lot of people are familiar with, where they eat tons of fat and a lot of times lower protein and low carb. Uh, doesn't work very well for fat loss. And you really got to look at prioritizing protein. And that's why she came up with the pure protein days or protein sparing modified fast days, where you eat nothing but protein, because it works really good for weight loss.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Craig, because that is a huge concern, especially in my patient population, where people have tried keto, the old school way, the high fat way, and they've gained weight. And then that just freaks them out completely. So you really have to, and I want to hear what you guys tell your clients as well as you're transitioning them to keto or back to keto because they had a bad experience with it in the past. How do you kind of break through that fear and teach people that it wasn't the low carb that did something to your metabolism? We hear a lot
Yeah.
out there, like even in my world, it'll tank your thyroid. I'm like, well, not really, because if we look at carnivores who eat zero carbohydrates, they're living their best life. Their autoimmunity is basically gone. So that's not the case. So
Exactly.
Exactly.
how do you break through that mindset and those fears?
The first question we ask is, what is your why? Because that's going to like
What's your
guide us.
goal?
What's your goal? What is your why? Why do you want to do this? And if it's epilepsy, seizures, Alzheimer's, that will be a high fat, moderate protein approach. That's what technically the ketogenic diet started for, right?
Yep.
But if it's for weight loss, which honestly 99% of people try keto for, right? I mean, they all want to lose weight. Um, it's not going to be high fat. It's not going to be cheese and nuts as a snack.
Yeah.
That's like the worst thing.
Yeah. So we kind of look at it. So, when I've been eating this way for like 20 years now. It took me a little longer than her. I was, I brewed my own beer, and I didn't have the health issues at the time. So I didn't have that kind of, motivation
But I
right away.
wasn't an egg. I just
Yeah.
let my success let him see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, I just realized I feel so much better when I eat this way, and I just stuck with it.
Yep.
But I don't know, 15 years ago or so, I started to really focus on what she was doing with her business and educating myself on biochemistry and all that. And so if you really look at it's kind of simple when you break it down this way, but you've got fat, protein, and carbs, right? Those are it's your basic macronutrients. Um, if we have low carbohydrates, we do that because it controls hunger. When you have those high sugar, blood glucose spikes, like for example, your normal blood glucose is 84 milligrams per deciliter, which is 1 teaspoon or 4 grams of glucose in your entire blood volume. Okay, that's it. So you eat a flurry with 100 grams of glucose in it, sugar. Guess what? Your body's in panic mode because the body doesn't want more fuel in your bloodstream than needed, and too much glucose in your bloodstream can kill you, right? So you got this flood of glucose coming in, and the body's panicking. It doesn't want to die, so it drives that glucose down as fast as it can. And rapidly falling blood glucose
Is hunger.
is hunger. And if it goes too low, that's now you're ravenous again. Even though 2 hours ago you ate 1,000-calorie flurry,
You shouldn't
right?
be hungry.
You shouldn't be hungry.
Right.
You eat 1,000 calories of eggs. You're probably not going to eat again until tomorrow.
Yep.
But so that's why we look at low carb as a starting point, because it controls hunger, all of these things from a hormones perspective.
Well,
Sorry, I was just going to finish the last two. So now you have proteins and fats, right?
Mhm.
Protein is very important and essential for a number of reasons. Number one, it's your amino acid building blocks to build muscle, to build hair, skin, nails. Every day you need this constant supply of amino acids. Also, protein comes with tons of vitamins and minerals. If you look at, we in our keto book right here, I put a whole chapter in there on, vitamins and minerals, comparing just a steak to kale and blueberries and everything else. And steak just blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
Protein is your most nutrient dense food you can eat pretty much. So you're getting lots of vitamins and minerals. So for those two reasons, you want to make sure you're getting enough protein. Then the last variable is fat, all right? And the vast majority of the fat you eat goes into your fat cells, okay? That's where it goes first. So again, we're all sitting here. We're not running a marathon or exercising. We have about 80 total calories of energy, fat, free fatty acids, ketones, and glucose, all of those fuels in our entire blood volume. So only 80 calories. So when you eat an 800-calorie meal, the body's got to, store that stuff off. So the vast majority of the fat you eat goes into your fat cells. Well, if you're trying to lose body fat, eating a whole bunch of fat in the diet is going to slow that process down. So we just adjust the fat then based on your goals. If you want to lose body fat, dial the fat in the diet down a bit. And if you want to gain weight, dial the fat back up. It just becomes your variable, the fat.
Like it's that
Everybody
easy.
understands.
Yeah, right. I mean,
we can't argue. Everybody agrees that sugar is bad for you, but they don't understand that when you eat a cracker, when you eat a bagel, when you eat pasta, it has one fate when it enters your bloodstream. It turns into sugar.
Broken down. A complex carbohydrate is simply glucose molecules linked together, and it hits a GI tract. It breaks it into glucose. It turns into sugar. Yeah. So really no different in those kind of foods than sugar.
Now, talk about the foods that are kind of more, I'll call them the sneaky ones, because the general population, like fruit, let's take fruit. It is a natural sugar. So everyone thinks, well, I'm getting my antioxidants in these apples that I'm eating every day. And it's a fruit. It's nature's dessert, right? It's good for me. But I want to hear from you because I explain this all the time. What happens? It's still seen by the body as a sugar, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as it gets into the bloodstream, it's glucose, and doesn't matter what source of sugar they came from, whether it's cane sugar or, I mean, if you've got fiber in the fruit, and this gets a little more complex, but if you're eating solitary ingredients, you can see blood sugar responses, whatever. From when you start eating fats, proteins, fiber, other things together, then the response can be modulated. Like for example, if you eat this is not good for weight loss, obviously, but if you eat a fat with some carbohydrates, some sugar, it'll slow the response of blood sugar response to the
Fruit.
to the sugar and compared to just having the sugar. But at the end of the day, all that sugar still ends up in your bloodstream.
Can I just
just got there a little bit slower because of the digestion.
Can I just make a comment? Like most people don't realize scientists have bred these fruits. That's nothing like what our ancestors ate. Let's be clear. The Costco strawberries that are as big as your hand are nothing like the wild strawberries that are as big as the tip of my pinky finger
and tart.
Very tart. They're not sweet. We've bred them, and the honey crisp apple and the sugar bee apple and the cotton candy grapes. That is not what our ancestors ate. We have bred them to be almost candy-like.
If you go back to 200, 300 years ago and ate those nature's candy, go for it.
Yeah.
You're going to get, we have great presentations on this, but we show, the ancestral fruits versus what we have today. Everything from like a carrot was this root thing that it just looked like totally like a root. It was not sweet at all. And there's like, 200% more carbohydrates in today's carrot than the old one, and you go down the line, like corn, the ancestral corn, it kind of looked like a grass with like, 3 kernels of corn on it. That's what corn used to be. We've bred it and hybridized it and turned it into this massive carbohydrate bomb. Well, that's not what we ate back then. And if you go back to those days too, and, you only had fruit certain times of the year, and it wasn't easy to find. It was more of you came across it. Oh, I'm going to have a couple of these because I found something, that I can eat. while you're hunting for the
Yeah, we
animals.
don't have banana trees in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tie this into kids right now because of this conversation with the fruit. As you were talking, Craig, I'm just thinking, and Maria, as you're talking about the the strawberries even changing, right? And here I'm thinking, how many moms out there are buying these franken fruits, for lack of a better word, for their children? Not only that, if they're genetically modified, are they also then sprayed with pesticides on top of that? So now we have a genetically modified fruit. It's sprayed with pesticides. You think that you're giving your kids something fantastic for their snack instead of, a fruit roll up, but you're really not, because what it's doing in the body is harm after harm after harm. I want to hear your story. We talked a little bit off air on your kids and what you noticed when you changed them over to keto. And then, as I shared with you, and my audience knows, I have a nonverbal autistic stepson. And what really impacted me years ago was seeing that documentary, The Magic Pill, where they had cases of autism, nonverbal autism. I believe they had epilepsy in there as well. And the dramatic shifts in these kids when they went on a ketogenic diet. So let's bring the kids in, then we'll circle back to the adults.
Well, I'll start by saying I started writing to help raise money for our adoption, and they're now 14 and 15. But when they were just little, they weren't, when we first got them from
They were
Ethiopia.
1 and 2 years old.
When you adopt children from another country, you immediately have to go to the hospital to do all these tests, and it's kind of traumatic. But we found out that they weren't even on the growth charts. They were just tiny. Like Kai was
like 2%
he
or
was
something.
over 1, and I could hold him like a newborn. Like I just held him in my baby carrier like this. And we even brought like our food to Ethiopia because we knew that they didn't have a lot. But we, would give them like coconut milk or, something like that. They loved it. I think it was just so nourishing. Like they just were happy to eat. Let's just say that.
And when we brought them home, we always had this big pot of bone broth, like bones in it.
Oh, Kai
simmering
was
on
great
the
for it.
simmering on the it was my old brew pot for brewing beer. So it was a big, huge kettle. We always had it simmering, and that was, what Kai transitioned to for just a extra something to drink in addition to his solid food he was starting. So it was bone broth, it was bone marrow, it was egg yolks, salmon. We'd break salmon up in little pieces.
Breast milk feed for
us. That was great. We had breast milk that we had somebody pump for us, so we had some extra to
our older one would eat salmon and like you name it.
Basically anything we would
eat,
we
just smaller pieces.
Whether it was, if it was like a roast beef, we just pureed it.
The only thing we didn't like was crab.
They still don't like seafood.
No.
But yeah, it was, but they like salmon, but it just basically fed them what we ate.
And within a year, they were at the 50th percentile. And then at 2 years, they were like the 75th percentile.
And they pretty much stayed there ever since.
Wow. So, they love food.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, some of the myths around, I think there's some related to old Caesar studies that, keto will stunt growth or something. That's if you don't, those studies, they were doing like 30 grams of protein for these growing kids.
It was to keep their seizures away.
And it's to keep their seizures away. And being that they had seizures, they had some metabolic issues to begin with, obviously. But, if you prioritize protein and you get enough protein, it can be the best diet for growth, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Those amino acids are key.
Yeah. And, back to your point, we have had so many parents with kids on the autism spectrum or ADHD, lots of different things that they come to us and they transition over their kid's diet and see incredible results. We were talking before this about one of the examples. Her kid ended up on a whole new spectrum on the autism spectrum, and just by changing her diet. Sorry, Bella.
She's just like
she always has to be part of it here. This is our new little baby.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's so cute. I just love. Oh, that's awesome. They got a great dog. That's what we're looking at if you're watching on YouTube.
But yeah, so their son ended up on a whole new level of the autism spectrum. They would, hugged her for the first time. Took no for it, and it's just food. Nothing else was changed.
Oh,
Right.
And so I think, diet can be really powerful for a lot of things, especially our kids as well.
Now, is there an age at which, okay, they're too old to transition them? It's not going to make a difference, or the kids are just going to basically reject everything that you try to give to them for food?
I think the earlier the better. I mean, when they
Yeah.
don't have a driver's license and they don't have any money,
Yeah.
you know.
If they can't,
Right.
if they can't go to the grocery store and buy their own groceries.
And I know that some parents think, oh, they're just kids, let them be kids and that type of stuff. But like we still make gummy bears, we still make, it's just collagen or gelatin, and it's just.
Well, that's the kids book you wrote,
Yeah.
has all kinds of great options. Just, especially for transitioning. If they're already, 10 years old or something, they're used to certain foods. That's a great book to start with, because you can most of those foods, we have a different version of it that gives them that familiar texture, flavor, but just with the healthier ingredients.
And they might, push back at first, but again, they don't have a car, they don't have any money, like they will get hungry. And sure, they'll go to school and they get something different, but when they're at home, they're going to get hungry.
Yeah.
And, as far as, there's never too late of an age to do it, because you will see benefits still. Yeah. As far as kids go, we've talked about this a lot in the past too, is, parents spend so much time and money educating their kids, or, putting their kids through sports and, all these other things. And we spend almost no time educating our kids on the thing that's going to affect their health the most in the long term. And that's their diet, what they're putting in their mouth. And, we get this all the time. Just let them be kids. Like when our boys were young and they're eating our food, just let them be kids and eat cotton candy and all the crap. Well, kids don't just turn 18 and suddenly go, oh, I'm going to eat healthy now. And I know how to do it.
Yeah.
You have to educate them the whole way through.
Like the big part is having them help you, because when they create something, they want to try it. Right. So, like I had little Kai making scallops. It's on YouTube. It's super funny.
Yeah.
And he actually wanted to eat them because he made them. Right.
Yeah. You didn't want to try them before that.
That's amazing. Well, and to your point as well, the other thing that I hear from parents is, well, that's not how I ate as a kid, and I'm fine. And to which I say, which I know you'll back me on this, the food that you ate, let's say 30, 40 years ago, is not the same food that's on the shelves right now. Even the crappy cereal that we all ate it was better for us back then. It's not even the same cereal right now.
I have a story. One of our coaches, she has a daughter she's teaching in Australia. And she said, Mom, you got to mail me, I don't know what cereal it was, like Fruity Pebbles, whatever. She's like, it's just not the same here. It's not as sweet. It's not as good. You got to mail me Fruity Pebbles. They have it here, but it's not as good because they don't use the chemicals that we use.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other part about it, let's be honest. Are we fine now? Look at America. We've got, I think the projection right now is 2030. Over half of Americans will be obese, not overweight, obese category. The diseases, all the things that plague us today, diabetes and all these problems. I don't think we are okay. So I don't, and a lot of these times, people, let them be kids and they are themselves overweight or obese and struggling with, insulin resistance or whatever it is. And they're letting their kids be kids. And they, if they're biological kids, they have the same genetics as you. If you put them down the same path as you, they're going to end up in the same place. You got to start early.
But on the same note as what you were saying, Dr. Amie, I worked with a guy at a grocery store manager. He wanted me to come in to kind of help decide what to put on shelves that would be healthier options. And he said, I know things are changing, Maria. This bread on the shelf, only a few years ago, I had a shelf days of 8 years. And now it's 8 days, 8 years, 8 days. And now it has a shelf life of 15 days.
Yeah.
So it's almost,
adding more and more preservatives and chemicals. And
Yeah. There's only one way to go. Right. And honestly,
people will make my bread. Oh,
what's
sorry.
that? Yeah. No, we need to make your bread and package it and put it on the shelves.
Well, they want me to make it for them, but they'll leave it on the shelf. But I'm like, you got to refrigerate that. You got to freeze it. Like it will go bad fast. There's nothing in it.
There's no preservatives.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. It wouldn't even last. So That's
What
kind
were
of
you saying?
interesting when you're shopping, when you see perishable items on the shelf, like how long have they been there and how long are they actually going to
Yeah.
last? They shouldn't last.
Right.
They shouldn't last.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
you know, back to kind of the people doing keto wrong. That's one of our foundational principles is stick to whole foods. If it says keto on the package, avoid it because it's
Especially at
probably
Costco.
processed junk.
Yeah.
Stick to the outside of the grocery store. Your meats, your produce, outside of avoid the inside as much as possible. You're going to be better off.
Yeah, you almost have to make your own food because I started seeing that years ago. Everyone was jumping on the keto quote unquote bandwagon and marking their foods as keto. And I'll never forget, I picked up, oh gosh, I want to say it was Slim Fast. And,
Mm.
just again, just for shits and giggles to see what was on the actual label, it was marketed as a keto product, and I picked it up and read the label and my jaw dropped. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I knew what I was probably going to see
Yeah.
when I flipped it over, but just driving home that point that we cannot buy something just because it says keto. There's no
No.
standards put out there for labeling of what your product actually has to have in it, that it has to have real foods, no chemicals and preservatives, and then people will do this, which I'd like to hear your take on it, this spin on net carbs versus actual carbs. And then that allows them to mark their product as keto.
Stay away.
Yeah.
Stay away.
I mean, perfect example. It's like Chalk Zero has
Oh,
a lot of those kind of products, and they
hope they don't
use
watch. Sorry.
they use soluble corn fiber as one of the main sweeteners, and they can label that as fiber, but it spikes your blood sugar about as much as sugar. I mean, it's
Well, we had a dear friend. She ate, it was Dr. What's her name?
yeah, sorry.
She's,
She ate a couple of small Snickers. She had CGM,
Yeah.
and then she ate a Chalk Zero chocolate, and the Chalk Zero spiked her blood sugar more than the Snickers.
Oh
yeah,
no. Oh
Yeah.
no.
So I mean, that's the problem. That's why we always go with total carbs because you
yeah.
eliminate all of that
But
junk that gets
we
hidden.
work with a lot of type ones and we'll test them with foods that have, those net carbs or, a lot of fiber in them and things like that. And it's going to affect you almost the same as if it
Yeah.
was, not a fiber.
Especially in those packaged
Yeah.
products for sure.
Wow. 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 So would you, I mean, can we go so far as to say that the main driver of almost every disease state is high carbohydrate, high sugar eating? Because really, if we look at Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes, the amount of inflammation that's caused in the body from eating processed foods, high carb, high sugar, that alone can create a variety of different disease states, from kicking up autoimmunity to arthritis, pain, heart disease, cancer. Cancer feeds on sugar. Now you brought up
Mm.
Alzheimer, or you brought up autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, child growth. What have we missed? I mean, it pretty much, when we start going
Oh,
down this
Blood
list,
pressure.
yeah,
right?
digestive
Right?
issues, IBS, acid reflux, Crohn's, colitis. I mean, we started collecting testimonies like 20 years ago from clients of they just message us. I can't believe I'm
We
off
don't
this
have to
medication. I can't believe my symptoms of
take
this
medication.
Parkinson's, all of
Yep.
these
Yes.
all of these
Mm.
conditions where they see these huge improvements just by changing their diet. And so we started collecting these. And now I've got thousands in this folder, and I can just go in there and Google or search a condition, PCOS, and get 20 testimonies,
Mhm.
People that
Because
saw
we'll get
huge
people
improvements.
saying, "Oh, have you helped with this?" And I'm like, "Craig, can you send me a few testimonies from that?" And he's got his folders.
And, in this book here, I started out the one chapter with this disease tree,
Mhm.
because I think there's a fundamental difference in how we approach things versus what healthcare professionals typically today approach it. And it goes back to her initial story, which is they look at it as it's mostly genetics. These are the cards you're dealt. There's nothing you can do about it. So here's a pill to mask the symptoms. And we look at it more as we look from root causes. And if the body is like this amazing machine that if you give it the right inputs, so there's a lot of inputs. Diet's a huge one. Also, getting some common sense sun exposure,
Mhm.
exercise, there's negative inputs like smoking or, and sleep is a very important input. All these factors are inputs to your body. And if you get them wrong, you can have problems that end up. And so the disease tree was all these root causes, you sleep, nutrition, all these things. And then the outcome, the leaves, are cancer, insulin resistance, Alzheimer's, all these problems. So if the source, the roots of the problem get off, you can develop these problems. But if you fix those root causes, most of these problems will be fixed as well. And that's fundamentally how we look at it different than healthcare professionals is, yes, genetics can kind of tip the scales, make you more susceptible to get Alzheimer's or these, different conditions. But if you get the inputs right, you can make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, that's me exactly. So my mother passed from Alzheimer's. Her father passed from Alzheimer's. I finally did a genetic test. I had the APOE4 gene. So I know I'm prone, but I'm keeping that switch in the off position by doing a ketogenic diet, by living that lifestyle, because I know that along with, hormones and peptides and all that, it all combines to keep that, that genetic switch off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Maria, you had mentioned your kids' book. Before I forget, I don't want to forget to name that. What is the name of your kids' book? Because I think that's going to help a lot of parents.
It must be on that side. Sugar-free kids. Can you grab it?
Yeah, sure.
Sugar-free kids. Okay. We'll put the links.
Halle Berry wrote the foreword for it. What's that?
We'll put the links to all of your books, your resources, everything in the show notes. But I wanted to actually say that out loud because we were talking about that, and I wanted to bring it back around to it and not forget to announce
Halle
that.
Berry wrote the foreword. Yeah.
Very nice. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. That's key right there. And, going back to all the different diseases, I was thinking about the brain diseases of kids and all. If it is so simple that a diet can be literally a cure-all, do you feel like, and this is getting a little bit, not even political, but do you feel like even just big pharma and big food, they're trying to poo-poo the ketogenic diet. They're trying to poo-poo this lifestyle of protein forward, clean food, healthy living, low process, low sugar, because how many drugs would that keep people off of? I heard Casey Means talk about this and say a sick child is a pharmaceutical's dream, like a big pharma's dream. Because if you can get a child sick early, now they are on diabetic medication, antidepressants, blood pressure, statins for the rest of their life. They're a customer for life for Big Pharma.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a factor. I think part of it too is, having a diet that can do so much improvement for so many things. You can't patent that. You can't sell that as a product. You can't do. They try to, but then you end up. That's the junk that ends up coming up. But at the end of the day, whole foods and this crazy diet of eating meat and vegetables. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're eating meat and low carb vegetables. That's primarily what we eat. Maybe a little bit of berries and fruit. Mm-hmm. That's it. And you can't patent that. You can't package that and sell it as a product. You can't make a drug that you can give to somebody to sell that does that. It's just.
Why don't you discuss what your dream is for subsidizing the people?
I was thinking about this the other day.
They're trying to help, the healthcare system.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so they're starting to go down this path. Like they're talking now about removing high fructose corn syrup from Coke products, I think it is, and then replace it with cane sugar. I get the sentiment, but at the end of the day, that will do absolutely nothing to help the obesity crisis and health crisis in this country. So we need bigger solutions that will address the root causes. And the root causes here, from a food perspective, is the highly processed, hyper palatable foods that everybody relies on because they're super cheap. And part of the reason they're super cheap is because we subsidize corn, $8 billion a year. We subsidize the corn industry so that the corn prices are low. And guess what? What's made from corn today? High fructose corn syrup, corn oil, nothing good. It's all processed food ingredients. Mm-hmm. So we lower the price of these processed foods artificially. Let's flip that, right? First
right?
of all, just take that away from the corn and give it to like anything that's whole food based. But if you want to take it a step further, you could grade ingredients by their how processed they are or possibly harmful. Like give them a score, if you will. And the
Mhm.
higher the score, the more that product gets taxed. Okay.
Yes.
And then so this is instead of saying you can't eat this, and because government when they start saying don't we're eliminating this ingredient, people don't like that. They like to have choice, but you can de-incentivize or incentivize certain things, just like we do with cigarettes. We know how bad cigarettes are. We don't ban them. We just tax the heck out of them so we can help pay for the health care that can result, right? So same thing, you tax these processed food ingredients, and then you turn around and give that tax right back to the, meat, vegetables, fruit, those products. So now you lower the price of the healthy whole foods and you raise the price of the processed foods. And now you've got that carrot and stick, right? You've de-incentivized the processed foods because they're more expensive now.
Mhm.
And guess what? The companies that make these processed foods,
They're going to try a lot
oh
harder.
boy, if I add this ingredient, that adds, 2% more tax, or this ingredient is 3 more, they're going to start thinking about adding all these junk ingredients because it's going to raise the price of their products. I think that's the kind of solution that we need.
We need to get Craig into the White House somehow. Need to get, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, it's so simple that our
Yeah.
government probably won't even implement it because it's so damn simple. So,
Um,
and it just makes sense.
yeah.
But you never know. We might in the next
Well,
4 years.
you know what? Kraft and all the big foods would go nuts over that. They would put billions of dollars in lobbying against that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You'd have a fight on your hands for sure. But I mean, hey,
Yeah.
if we can get rid of red and blue food dye, maybe there's hope, Craig. Maybe
Yeah.
there's maybe there's a
Yeah.
fighting chance.
Maybe.
We'll see. We'll
But
see.
even like your dad was sick in the hospital, and the food that they gave him was
Oh,
just nothing but sugar,
garbage.
fake fats, food dye, the Jello. It's just
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. Here you have sick people and we're literally feeding them
Yeah.
the worst possible food ever. My dad was in the hospital
Yeah.
with, he had to go through a stem cell bone marrow transplant for cancer and he ended up in
Oh,
the
wow.
ICU with sepsis. So his gut is blown up. I mean, he was having issues like diarrhea,
Mhm.
everything for days. Even the fact that he made it back on the transplant floor from sepsis. Then we're like, we're happy to see you up here because we normally don't see people. The first thing they fed him was Ensure. I was standing in the room
Oh,
like,
God.
oh no, I'm gonna go out and get you something and bring
Oh,
it back. It was horrible.
yeah. Get you a steak.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
well,
seriously. Like we'll do
that
or how
Ensure
about a
is just
how about some bone broth? Let's start there instead of
Yeah.
Ensure,
Yeah. Exactly.
totally.
Jeez. Yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
So now you guys have taken your love, your passion, your incredible knowledge, and you build out a certified keto coaching program. Now, who is that for? Can anyone take that? Is it just I have a lot of coaches, nurses, doctors, everything listening to this show. So explain more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're nurses or they specialize in something they have overcome or they're in the process of overcoming how they've seen how food has changed their life. They're
Mhm.
very passionate.
And we started this about 6, 7 years ago, and it was because of this trend of this high fat, low
Yeah.
protein kind of keto was starting, and we're like, okay,
We want to train
first of
people.
all, yeah, we can't do it all ourselves. We need more people. Rising tide lifts all boats. There's so much illness and the obesity in this country. We need lots more people helping, and we want them to be helping the right way. And so we want it with the right kind of methods that we know work, prioritizing protein, adjusting fat based on their goals. So we created this program that educates people on how to do it the right way and how to build a business, training others or helping others to
But we
heal their
also
bodies and lose
help
weight.
them set up their business in
Yeah.
an effective way. So we have a website
Like a
for them.
business in a box and everything. Really give them all the tools.
That's the
get started.
scariest part is when you graduate, whether it's college or this or whatever. It's like,
Now what?
how do I do it? Right? It's just
Right.
kind of like scary. So we kind of just like walk them through that. And then when they have a hard client question, we have someone who
support.
specializes in cancer patients, and she always has the hardest clients. And so we have meetings every week to talk it through.
Coaching calls, and they can talk through issues with their clients or hard questions, and we can all talk through it and help them answer them.
It's really fun. I really
Now,
love them.
what if
And then
someone
I
just
have
wants
like little
go ahead,
Yeah.
Mary? Go ahead.
I'm starting like little spa retreats so we can get together and just talk
The
about,
coaches.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
fun.
amazing. Amazing. Now, can anyone take it? Let's say you have someone that just wants to really learn more. Maybe they've done keto the wrong way before, gained weight, like we talked about. Can anyone jump into the program and just a deep dive and
Yeah.
learn?
We had people that don't want to be a coach, but they wanted to learn the
Yeah.
best way, and they've done that too, which
Yeah.
it is really like the most informative
It's so
way.
there's so much content in there. It's
About it is there's no deadline. So
Yeah.
if life happens, your dad gets sick or something, and you have to put it on pause, we're not going to be like, you're out, you fail this semester. No, it's just
You
you
get
pick it back up when you can.
you get
Mhm.
lifetime access to the program
Yep.
once you purchase. So you can just jump in and out. You can go back and review things, or
Because
we're,
life
we're
does
constantly
happen.
we're constantly adding stuff too. You know, as
Yes.
we have new presentations or information, we'll add those to the
Yeah.
program, and it keeps growing.
Now, where can people go to find out more about this program?
The easiest place is ketomaria.com. It's
Yep.
always on there. Yep.
And then you can go from there, you get to our keto-adapted.com, which is our website where we sell that program, all our ebooks, everything.
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
books are key. Your
Thanks for
your
bringing that
books are
up.
absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
and we'll put that in the
Thank
show
you.
notes. We'll put if people didn't get it, we'll put that in the show notes. But I wanted you to say it.
Thank you.
And before I let you go, I want to hear what is the most inspiring testimony. You talked about having a lot of testimonies from a variety of different disease states right across the board. And just real quick before you tell me that story, I do want to back that statement up with I also have saved multiple clinical trials and studies. And especially when I was in my doctorate program, I wanted to save all these studies. So I would save them and put them under the keto label. And I have said for years, so I'm so happy that you said this on the show. I have said for years that the keto diet is the only way of eating or diet, I guess we could say, that has the amount of studies showing a positive effect on the body. I could type in
Yeah.
keto and Alzheimer's, keto and obesity, keto and ADHD, autism, cancer, dot, dot, dot. And you're going to have a study
Yeah.
show up that is positive, showing that keto had a positive impact on that disease state. So I love that you mentioned that. But now I want to hear your most inspiring testimony.
There's been so many.
Boy.
Maybe Twyla or
That's one that came to mind. Twyla's one of our coaches now.
74 pounds. 374 pounds.
274.
200. No. On Women's World Magazine.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
She wouldn't even go, she wouldn't leave her house because say she'd go to the store and she'd have to go to the bathroom. She couldn't get into a stall. That's how large she was, right?
Right.
So she never left the house. And what frustrated her, she's the kindest person you've ever met. She actually came to visit us in Hawaii. It's just the sweet-hearted person. She's now a coach. She's like, people would look at you and judge you, like, why don't you try? And she's like, I've tried everything the doctors told me to do. I tried Weight Watchers. I tried all the things, and it never worked. And she actually was a part of our free Facebook groups, and we would just help her through there because she couldn't afford to be one of our clients. And we just helped her through there. And pretty soon enough, she's like
down a couple 100 pounds, and she hadn't paid us $1. She just followed our groups and followed our free blog information and just transformed her life. And that was one of the things too, we have a video that we interviewed her, and
her testimony.
Just the thing that really hit me was, people would look at her or say like, do you want to be that? Do you realize how big you are? Or, and she's like, everything I do, every step,
reminds me of
how big I am.
Yeah.
Sitting in a chair, worried that the chair might break.
Yeah.
Like you're reminded of that every second of every day.
Yeah.
And
I think I have
so
it
hard
at the top of my Instagram if you ever go there.
You're so, that's your life. It's all you live is that obesity when you have that situation, and and then trying everything and nothing working, and the doctor's just, giving up basically. And you just got to find the right thing that works.
There was also a skin testimony of someone who just had the worst type of eczema. I don't know what the exact name was.
It was a leg, right? Where she was.
Her whole skin was terrible. And she would have to get injections that cost $3,000 a month. That didn't even really help. And it made her nauseous to the point where she'd be sick. And I just gave her a few tips on what to do, and I gave her some supplements to take. And within 3 weeks, she sent me pictures, and it was
Completely cleared up.
completely cured.
Just changing your diet.
Diet and a few supplements that helped
Yeah, a
speed it
couple
up.
supplements too.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
emu oil or something. Yeah.
Wait. The
Crazy.
first woman, how much weight did she lose? You gotta be on the edge of my
Twyla?
seat. Yeah.
I'll have to bring that up.
I think it's 275.
Wait, she
275 pounds.
lost 275 pounds?
270 pounds. Here she is.
Yeah. There's her before, after.
Oh my God. Okay, you guys who aren't watching this, you got to go to Maria's Instagram. What's your Instagram, Maria?
Yeah, Maria Emmerich.
At Maria
Okay.
Emmerich.
Yeah,
Maria Emmerich.
Yeah.
It's going to be in the show notes, but you got to go. You got to go and
Thank
see
you,
this
thank you.
picture because it
You're
is
so sweet.
jaw-dropping. I thought you meant that she weighed 274
No.
pounds. You mean she lost 270?
Yep.
Oh my.
That's
Well, then
crazy.
there's Kiki who had alopecia. She was somebody that I lift weights with, and she would only come during the summertime because she was a professor. And so during school time, she was always too busy to come to body pump we would do. And she came up to me before it was like fall. She came up to me and she said, Maria, I want to hire you. I heard you could help me with my hair. And she always wore a bandana.
She had no hair.
No hair.
Full alopecia.
Mhm.
She came into my office and I told her what to do. And we would talk online, but I never saw her. And then in May, she came back to Body Pump and she had her stupid bandana on. She came up to me and she ripped it off. She said, Maria, I had my first haircut in 10 years.
Oh,
Full head of hair.
As a woman, you know how beautiful your hair is and you have a good hair day. And like,
right.
I just can't.
That
But
was
here's the sad part of the story. She loved food too much. She couldn't stick to it.
and she ended up
She
falling back
lost all
off.
of her hair again.
Lost her hair again. And that's there's so much more to it than you can even have the answer and know the answer. But in this society and the food we're presented with on a day-to-day basis,
The
it's such
people around you too. I think surround yourself with people that want to lift you up rather than pull you down.
Yeah.
it's a big part of it.
Yeah, and just be supportive. Well, those are incredible, inspiring stories. I love you guys. This is such great information. I am so
That's
happy to bring this to my audience because I mean, I can talk, but it's not until you bring experts on that people actually listen to you. So now maybe people listen to me right now because they're listening to you about the importance of eating in a way that reduces your disease risk and gives you a better life overall, no matter what your goal is. So Maria, Craig, you guys are absolutely amazing. Keep doing what you're doing in this world. You're like you said, you're changing the world one person at a time, one coach at a time that will then have a trickle effect on those people that they help. And you're spreading health. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Amie.
you so
Thank you
much.
for your time. You're awesome.
Absolutely. And anyone listening, anything that we talked about today, we'll put those down in the show notes. So you can go grab Maria's book, grab all of their books, join the coaching program, and check out her Instagram for that incredible, inspiring before and after picture. Thank you for sharing that so much. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.